looking at today we'll be looking at project management. We'll be looking at project phases. I just want to do an introduction to all the different.
Thank you. Yes, good evening, everyone. Once again, my name is 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐍𝐄𝐓 Aladito, and I will be taking you on Agile project management. Today, specifically, we'll be looking at project phases. And like I always tell people, project management is a wonderful, wonderful discipline. It's quite, it's quite broad. Okay, there are so many aspects to it, and all industries now they've come to realize the importance of project management, and that is why you will see wherever you go to, there's always a need for a project manager. Everywhere you go to, when you get to the hospital, they now have project manager. You go to even a restaurant, someone that owns a restaurant and you own chains of restaurants, they have McDonald's, they have project managers. Okay, because they are everything that we do seem to, appear as a project, whatever it is that you do. Even attending this program tonight, this training session, it's actually a project because you had to plan for it. It took you a while. From last week, you've made up your mind, you've made some preparation, you've done some things in order for you to be here. Okay, you have to prepare your laptop, you have to get your data ready, you have to work on your time, you have to clear your schedules. All these are features of project management. You may not know it, but it is. So, in order for you to get a project successfully delivered, you need some certain skills. And that is why project management came to be, to train people, to give you those particular expertise, skills, knowledge that you require to assemble things together, people, features, equipment, tools, and at the end of the day, make certain decisions based on certain informations, how to get those informations, how to work on risk, and so many other stuff. So I'll be talking on some of them, some of the tools. But first, I want you to understand the beauty of project management. So when we now say agile project management, that's another topic entirely but now let's look at the whole project management. Because in project management, several years ago, decades or let's say centuries, people have been doing project management in the traditional style, okay? And then after a while, the agile movement came, and people are now embracing the agile way of working, which is iterative. And it makes things happen faster, okay? And the beauty of it is that it embraces changes even along the way. So it's not as cumbersome as the traditional project management, which is the Prince2 also. Some people call it, you can say, okay, waterfall. Okay, so in the course of this session, not necessarily today, but as we move along, we'll look at the agile project management. We'll also look at waterfall. So you will understand the difference between both of them, and then you will know what sort of project can we apply agile and what sort can we now bring in waterfall. Because there are companies out there, they need project managers with experience in waterfall and also experience in agile. So you need to understand how to handle both. At the end of our session, eventually when we wrap this up in few weeks' time, I'm going to present you with different projects. So you'll be handling some with you will have to carry out some projects with waterfall, and then some will have to be agile. So you can understand the difference there. Okay. So for today, last week I think we did a introduction to the agile project management. And then in continuation today, I want to introduce you to project phases, the different phases of a project. I've categorized them into 5. today we'll look at, I think 2 or 3 of them is what we'll look at now. And then next week we'll just wrap it up because I don't want to rush it. We need to understand what is happening. There are some tools there, and also there are some diagrams also that I've tried to include so that you have a picture. There are several documentation that goes with this. And some of those documents are attached like just a page, so you have an idea. There will be some terms that will be used. Probably, maybe you've not heard them before, but I will try and explain them because they are very important. That's why we are together here. Okay. At the end of what we're doing, you would have gained knowledge as to understanding what those tools are, what they're used for, and then you should be able to, run like a startup project. When you're given a project, what are the questions that you need to ask? How do you even go about it? What sort of documentations are required? And then how do you align that with the objective, with the business objectives? So all these are what we'll quickly be looking at today. And then, yeah, I'm going to be welcoming questions. So let me quickly share my screen. Can you see my screen, please? If you know you can see my screen, please let me know.
Yes, we can, Wilt.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's move on. This is introduction to project phases. Now, there are 5 project management process groups. The phases are divided into 5. You might encounter some people or some, maybe some books that would split it into 4. It depends. But what we're looking at here, in order to simplify it, I've splitted it into 5 phases. And they are broken down into initiation phase, planning phase, execution phase, monitoring and controlling, and then closure. So each of these project phases, there are several lists of documentation that you need to, understand. You need to know how to prepare them. You need to know how to interpret them, to read through them, because they are quite important for management and also for you to be able to monitor the progress of the project, and also for you to be able to convey some of the features and the importance and the objectives of what is being done, and then tell the reasons why they are being done, and also to look at the risk, how to manage it, and the stakeholders. So all these are what we'll be looking at. I've listed the 5 phases initiation. Here we are defining a new project or a new phase of an existing project. Okay, so it might just be a project that you're starting from afresh, or it might be an existing project, but within that existing project, there's also a project that needs to be carried out. Okay, also then planning. After initiation, we move to planning. You're establishing the scope. You are refining the objectives of the project or the product, and then you're defining the course of action. How we're going to go about this. And then the execution now. You want to now perform the work itself that is defined in the project management plan. That's the execution phase. And the next is monitoring and controlling. While the project goes on, you're monitoring it, you're tracking, what is happening, you're tracking the progress, and then you review, and regularly you make this progress report to management. You also check for the performance of both the team, individual, and the project itself. That's for the monitoring and then the controlling. When you keep monitoring, if you notice something is going wrong, you control. You bring it back to track. If it's going off track, there are things that need to be done to bring it back to track. And finally, closure. When you're done, formalizing acceptance of the product, services, or result. and then bringing everything to an orderly end. So when you're doing this, there are steps that you need to take in order to bring the project to a formal closure. Okay, like I said, these are the 5 phases. Initiation. Here, you have your project goals and then the feasibility plan being done. And then you need the stakeholders register. You need your project charter. And then you will now organize a kickoff meeting. Once you have all this, you organize a kickoff meeting. That's why you now call up some of the teams that, oh, this is what needs to be done. The management will be there. Management wants to check this project. Is it viable? Is it something that's going to bring us money? Is it a waste of time? A waste of resources? Okay. So there are questions that management will ask. So you need to present some document that will show what the project is for. What is the importance of the project? What solution is this bringing? What problem will it be solving? All those are things that you need to present to management in order for them to get to accept or for you to get their buy-in. Then the next stage is the planning. Here you have the scope and budget. Okay, the scope. What is the extent of this project? What does it involve? What does it entail? Is this included? Is this not included? Here you need to be specific that, oh, this is what we want to achieve. For instance, we want to build a 2-bedroom flat. That is all we want to do. So you should be able to state it categorically, state it clearly. Does it involve the fence? Will you have a fence? And will your fence have a flower curb? So you have to be specific with what the project scope is, because for every addition, there's cost. And also you need to let them know what is not included in your scope. You can say, oh, my 2-bedroom that we're building, there's going to be solar panel added to it at the end of the day on the roof. Oh, it will not be there. You need to state everything that should be there and that should not be there. Okay? And then the budget. What it's going to cost. And then you look at the deadlines. How long are we going to, is it going to take 1 year, 6 months? You have to be specific. Then the team roles. Who are the people that will be involved? We need a developer, or we need a full stack developer, front end or back end alone. We need testers, we need BA, we need project architect. Just give the team roles. And then what's your communication plan? Oh, we're going to be having stand-ups in the morning from 9:30 to 10 o'clock with the team. And every week we'll have weekly progress report. Okay. And then every month we'll have, so it depends. Make sure that your communication plan is stated. And then milestones. Like the house example that I gave. Oh, the first milestone will be, we're going to have the foundation. The next, we're going to have the lintel. The next, we're going to have the decking, the roof, so it depends. And if it's software delivery, fine, we want to have what? The major features first for the first page, landing page. If it's website, it's the landing page you want to do first. It's the registration you want to get on. So everything needs to be detailed. That is for your planning phase. And then execution. You move to execution. That here is where you're doing the work. Task completion, team collaboration, efficient workflow, status reports, and then meetings. All those are inclusive of your execution phase. Then your monitoring and control, your budget and timeline, your project goals, quality control, the team performance, risk management. You need to bring out your risk register, and then you monitor the progress, and then you need to let management know what your mitigation plans are, and then the status. If you have a risk, I want to know if there's a good mitigation plan in place if this happens. It's just like you attending this meeting now, there's a risk of power failure in some part of the world. Okay? So if it happens, what's your backup plan? Someone might say, oh, my backup plan is that I'm using a MacBook, and my MacBook can be on for 6 hours and it's fully charged. So even if there's no power supply, I can still be on for the next 6 hours. And this meeting is going to take just 2 hours. So I'm covered. Now that's the plan. Someone else may just say, oh, there's a solar system that I can turn on to if this power source goes off. Now that's the plan. That's a mitigation plan. Someone else might say, okay, there's a generator that can be used. So for whatever risk there is, you should have a mitigation plan. Then we now have closure. The final phase. You're closing the project. You are wrapping it up. You will have some meetings, retrospective meetings, project closure reports that needs to be generated. And all these, there will be some information that need to be there. What has happened? And then you're now handing over the project to maybe the BAU team. So there are some information that they will need. All needs to be within your closure report. And you also have your AAR, after action review. So all these are part of documentation that you will need for closure. Now we're going to look at some of these documentation and then you'll see samples of them. Okay. Let's move on. So the phase one, let's look at project initiation. We'll look at that and then what sort of documents are required. When you are given a project, let's say we want to build a website, okay? Let's say that's the project now. The starting point is the initiation phase. Within the initiation phase, this is where you answer the question, why? Why do we need this website? Why do we need this project? Why do we need this product? What problem will this product solve? Now, what are the opportunities out there that we are seizing by presenting this project? And this is quite crucial for you to get the buy-in from top management. So these are questions that need to come up within your initiation phase. That's why you will need some documents that we will look at now to present this argument. Let's move on. Now, what are the core activities of this project initiation? I've mentioned the opportunities. You need to clearly articulate the business need or strategic advantage. What are the business needs? What are the strategic advantage that this website or mobile app or whatever the product is bringing? Then you need to now define what the goals are and the objectives. What specific outcome do we want to achieve? And these objectives will have to be SMART. When we say SMART objective, we're talking of objectives that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and then they are time bound. You need to set a time limit. Oh, it's going to take 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, 2 months, whatever it is. It has to be time bound. So your objectives for that project need to be SMART. And at the same time, you will identify the key stakeholders. Your stakeholders will be external and internal stakeholders. Those that will be affected or that can be influenced by the project. Examples are customers, sponsors, your team members, then regulatory bodies also. They are all stakeholders. So you need to assess all this, identify them, analyze them, understand what they want, and then assess high-level scope. You need to understand the boundaries. Like I mentioned, what are those things that are included within your project and those that are not? You will state them clearly. Okay. One of the documents that you will require in your initiation phase is your project charter. Okay? Your project charter within that's your project mandate. Now, this is a formal document that authorizes the existence of a project and provides the project manager with the authority to apply organizational resources to project activities. When you have this, it gives the mandate of the project. It now prompts authorization for the project manager to be able to start engaging with some of the resources of the organization. When you present this, it gives justification. It measures the project objectives and then the success criteria. It gives high-level requirements. Then the risk also will be stated there. It summarizes the milestone. And then it also points out a bit of the project, the budget. Okay, so all these are key features, key elements that will be looked at within the initiation phase as regards to the project charter. So when you have this and then management sees this, they can start talking about, okay, you can start engaging with resources. Okay, I need this sort of manpower. I will need this sorts of equipment. I'll need this. Whatever it is that you need, you now have a justification to request for them and then to engage in using them. That is the project charter. You can look at a sample project charter on Google. You just say, let's say IT project charter. You will just see a sample. Might just be a page. It will help out. And then business case. That's another document. We're now justifying the project. This is to justify the project. If I'm the CEO of a company and you are the project manager and you are saying that, oh, we need a website, assuming we don't have it, we need a website. You need to come to me. Let me know why I'm going to spend my hard-earned pounds. Say maybe we're going to budget like £150,000 for this project. You need to convince me that it's worth it. So with your business case, you are providing project value. This is a document that justifies the undertaking of a project. What it does is it outlines the benefits, cost, and the risk. It's going to present all the benefits of the project, all detailed, and then the costs associated and the risk. So when management is looking at it, they can tell that, oh, this is going to solve this problem. These are the benefits, why we need to go into this. So they see that, they're happy. And then they look at the cost. Can we afford this? Do we need to get a loan for it? All these they will do. And then they also look at the risk. Is it okay? Is this something we can live by? Do we have mitigation plans in place for this? So when you present this within your business case, you can be sure that when it is well written anyway, it will fly. So why is it essential? Because it provides a rationale for investment, like I mentioned, and it also helps to decide if the project is worth pursuing or not. And it serves as a reference point throughout the project life cycle. Because as the project continues, as it progresses, you can always look back and say, oh, these were the benefits we said we're going to get. These were the objectives that we were working with. These were the cost limits. And these are the different risks that we did mention. So you can always go back and check. And remember, the business case will also showcase the ROI, which is the return on investment, the cost-benefit analysis, and strategic alignment. If you are spending £1 million on this, this is the benefit. It's going to solve this problem. It's going to solve this problem. And at the end of the day, you're getting your £1 million back. You're also getting an additional profit, this and that. Maybe at the end of the day, you're getting 2.5 million, you know. Management will say it's worth it. So remember, your business case provides rationale for investment. It helps to decide if the project is worth pursuing or not, and it serves as a reference point throughout the project life cycle. Okay, and then you're going to run a feasibility study. Remember, we are still on initiation phase. The first phase of a project, initiation phase. We've talked about your project charter, the business case. Now we're looking at feasibility study. Here we are assessing the project's viability. How viable is this project? There are different types of feasibility that you can carry out. There's technical, economic, legal, operational, schedule. For technical, do we have the technology? Do we have the expertise to carry this out? Maybe we're developing a website. Do we have access to good developers, good testers, good business analysts, highly experienced ones that can help us out with everything that we need? You need to check that and say, oh, okay, we do. And then economic feasibility. Is it financially sound? Is it really worth it? If we spend this amount of money on this, are we getting return for it? Then the legal. I hope it complies with all different regulations out there. So all these are different feasibility studies that need to be carried out to ensure that the project is viable. Okay. What are the different deliverables of the initiation phase? I've mentioned the project charter. It has to be signed and approved before you can even launch the project. And then the business case, which justifies the project existence and the value. The feasibility study report, which details the viability or analysis. I've mentioned those. And then you have your stakeholder register. You need to identify all the different stakeholders. And assumption log, document all the different initial assumptions. And high-level risk register, what are the risks? You will identify them. Okay, and then what are the mitigation plans? So those are just some. The list is quite exhaustive because there are some other documentation that are not here. For some companies, you might be required to do to get a PID, that's project initiation document, PID, which is quite important. Okay, but that's not listed here. So when you hear PID, oh, have you checked the PID? You know, it's project initiation document. So all this information will be contained therein. So now let's move to the next phase of the project. So you've done all the first, all the initiation phase. You've done everything. You've gotten all the different documentation. Management, they've signed it off. They say, okay, that's good. We can make money from this project. Let's go on with it. Your next task as a project manager is the project planning. Project planning. Remember I said the initiation phase is why. It has to do with why. Why are we doing this? Within this other phase of project planning, we are looking at how. How do you intend to carry this out? How will you do this? Here you are crafting the roadmap. This is how we want to get this done. We do this, we get this done, we get this and this and this together, and then we will arrive here. So we're looking at how we're going to get the project done. So the most crucial phase for project success, this is it, where the detailed how of the project is defined. It also involves breaking down the project into smaller, manageable components and defining the approach to achieve all the objectives. It's a well-planned project. Now, a well-planned project reduces uncertainty. When you plan a project properly, uncertainties will be minimized. Risk will be minimized. And then you will have a clear path for the team to work with. So when you have a good plan, it becomes easy for the team to just walk through it. And there's clarity in your plan. Okay? So when you have this, it's easier for the team to just pick it up and say, oh, we have a good plan. This is what we need to do. They understand what they need to do. And then they start working with it because you've detailed all this. So you've broken down all the different aspects of the project into different chunks, little bits. For instance, let's say we want to construct a road, 10 kilometers or 1,000 kilometers. And then as the project manager, you need to split all the different parts. What is the first thing to do? This is the road. We need to clear the road. Get all the machineries that will do that. What sort of machineries are required? Do you have trees along the path? Then you will need, heavy machineries like all the heavy bulldozers and everything. Now, having done that, you now need to clear all those parts. After the clearing, what is the next part? So all the different parts, the project manager will split everything within the planning phase into manageable components. So whoever wants to work on that project understands and can just work with it. That's the beauty of a well-crafted plan. When you have a good project plan, okay? So let's move on quickly. We're still on project planning now. What are the key planning areas within the project planning? What are those areas that we need to look at? There are several areas that you will need to go through within your planning phase. Some of them are scope management, schedule management, cost management, resource management, quality management, risk management, communication management, and stakeholders management. So you can see all these that I've mentioned now, every one of them, they are unique. When we talk about scope, what is within your project? What is included and what is not included? It must be stated for clarity's sake. Okay? So we're having a construction project for a building. This is included. This is not included. There's going to be like a helipad, or there won't be a helipad because there's no need, no helicopter wants to land. So you must ensure that you state clearly what is part of this project and what is not included. And then you go to your schedule management. You're creating a realistic timeline for the completion of this project. How long is it going to take? 2 months, 3 months? Since you already have understanding of previous projects, you should be able to predict how long it's going to take. And also the costing. What is the cost? You should be able to estimate the cost, the budget for the project, and also how to manage the progress. As the project continues, you should be able to tell if you are working within budget or out of budget. Because if you go over budget, management will frown at that. So you need to be able to monitor this also and tell that, we agreed that this phase of the project is going to cost £1 million. So how good are we at keeping to that? It's part of your task. And then resource management. You need to identify the resources that are required, both human resources, equipment, and material resources. What sort of skill sets are required? You should be able to identify all this. And then when you identify this, that will be passed on to the HR. Oh, I need 2 QA for this role. Oh, I need 2 developers for this. I will need this amount of this. So if they don't have it within the company, they can reach out and make requests, probably recruit. So it's part of your task to identify the sort of resource that is required and kind of equipment also and materials that you will need. And then quality management also, you're defining the quality standards and how to achieve them. What sort of quality? You need to understand what quality is required, that you can say, okay, this is the standard. And while you're working on it, in case of maybe software delivery and you can talk of the testers that's going to test the quality of what you're doing. And then maybe for the waterfall, you will have a QA, quality assurance personnel that will check the quality of the materials, maybe the building or whatever it is. And then the risk management. You should be able to identify the risk, analyze them, and then plan the response to every one of those risks. It's like saying you're going to the market. There's a risk of rain. It's going to rain. So what's your plan? I'll go with an umbrella. That's part of it. So you need to have that risk response, mitigation plan. Also, communication management. How will communication be shared within the team, then within yourself as the project manager and top management, within yourself and the team, within the team and themselves? There are different levels of communication. So all this needs to be stated clearly within your planning phase. So the team will know that, oh, by 9:30, we're having daily stand-up. Oh, every Thursday, we have general updates that we need to present. So all these different communication levels need to be stated. And then stakeholders, finally. Who are the stakeholders? You need to identify them. You need to class all the different stakeholders so that you can engage them effectively. The top management, they are part of your stakeholders. And then the regulatory body out there, they're part of your stakeholders. Even your competitors out there, they're still part of it, because you need to understand what's going on out there to be able to manage your own project and keep afloat. So all these are part of your planning phase in a project. And then, as part of your planning phase, you will come across what they call the work breakdown structure. I will show you an example. Within the work breakdown structure, you are defining the scope. And it breaks down what, what it does is to split the chunk of the project into smaller bits that you can just follow. You can see the breakdown. Like I gave an example of someone that wants to build a house, and then you can decide to break it down into smaller bits and say, oh, the foundation first, and then the major brick walls, and then the roofing part. Those are 3 different, segments. And within those segments, there are still tiny bits that need to be done within them. So you can break it down into those 3. And then within those 3, underneath, you start looking at other stuff that need to be done within them. So the work breakdown structure is a hierarchical decomposition, like it's written here, of the total scope of the work to be carried out by the project team. to accomplish project objectives and then create the required deliverables. So what it does is that it breaks down the work into manageable work packages. Also ensures all necessary work is identified and nothing unnecessary is included. So you will see an example of that, I think, on our next slide. Okay, so you can see this now. I gave an example of construction of a house. You can see the internal work that needs to be done. You can see the next one is the foundation. And then the third is the external. Look at the internal work. There will be electrical work. There will be plumbing. All this will go internally into the walls. And then within the second is the foundation now. What do you have within the an excavation done first on the floor? Then there will be steel erection before you start moving the blocks. Then for the external, there will be masonry work. They're going to plaster the walls. And then look at the finishes. Painting, contractors will do his work, and several other stuffs. So this is just to give you an idea of how you can split a particular project into different chunks. So this is just an example of a work breakdown structure. You can see how it's broken down everything. It just simplifies it. Oh, we have an internal part. There's a foundation part that needs to be done. And then there's an external part. Simple. Then within each of them, there will be other work to be done. So let's move on to schedule and milestones. The project scheduling and milestones. Here you have sequencing, breaking down the work package into specific activities and then determining their logical order. You know, basically, when we're talking of milestones, like the work breakdown structure that I showed you earlier on within the previous slides, let me just go back to it. Now you can see this. Every part of it, there are some key achievables, or I'll say deliverables. When you're done with your foundation, you know, before the foundation, you need to excavate, you know, then erect this steel, then there'll be concrete, reinforcement, and everything. So when you're done with that, and you can say, oh, we are done with the foundation, that's a milestone. Okay, so you split the project into different milestones. And then when you're done with that, you can now start erecting all the blocks and everything. And then you're done, you get it to the lintel, you can say, oh, that's another milestone. And then we start, okay, the next phase, now we want to plan the roofing. When you're done with your roofing, that's another milestone. Okay, hope you understand that. I hope you can all hear me. I need someone to say something. Can you hear me?
Very well.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. I love to do that, to be sure that we're still together. So, now that is for the milestone. Now there are, you can use what I call a Gantt chart, okay, to represent this. I'm going to show you a sample of a Gantt chart. With your Gantt chart, this is a visual representation of the project schedule. It will show you we're doing this. This is how long it takes. This is the current stage. And then you can just look at the Gantt chart and then tell, oh, okay, this is where the project is at the moment. Okay, I can see that you guys have done 65% of this. Oh, this is where you are on Tuesday. You were actually doing this. By Friday, this is where you will be. You know, your Gantt chart shows you that. And then the critical part identifies the longest sequence of activities that must be completed on time for the project to be finished on schedule. That's for the critical part. Yes, Vivian, your hand is up.
I don't know if it's me, but we can only see scheduling and milestones. We're not seeing the Gantt chart you're talking about. So on the screen, we're not seeing the chart.
Okay, no. You're not seeing the chart. I'm not showing the chart yet. Are you talking of this?
Okay, apologies. I thought you were talking about the Gantt chart and we're supposed to see a visual representation of what you're
Yes,
saying.
you're going to see that on the next slide. I think so. Yeah, you're going to see that.
Thank you.
So that's about the Gantt chart. Okay, so it's a visual representation of the project schedule, and it helps you to, monitor. It just gives you the picture of the information that this is where the project is at this point, and then management can just look at it and tell where you are and where you intend to be in the next 1 week or few days time. Now this is a pictorial view of Gantt chart. You can see what we have here. Look at task 1. We're saying the progress is 75% done. And then the start date, you can tell when it started. And then the end date, this is when we intend to complete it. So you can see from January 1st, 2018, quite old, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you can see that the purple color on Thursday. So it shows you the progress made. So you can tell any day, once you just open up your Gantt chart, as long as you are populating the Gantt chart as the progress goes on, management can just see this, and then they will know where you are, what you're doing, and then where you will be, where you plan to be, maybe in the next 2, 3, 4 days, 2 weeks. So by the time they monitor it, and when that time comes, you should be able to tell if there's a shortfall. You can say, oh, we're supposed to be here by now, 25% completed, 75% completed, but maybe this happened, and then you can explain it. And there are times where you actually beat those dates. Okay, you're supposed to spend 3 weeks on it, but less than that, you've actually accomplished it. And then the reason for that will be stated. So this is an example of a Gantt chart, okay? In continuation, now let's look at risk. Remember, we are talking about your planning phase now. And we've mentioned quality, risk, stakeholders management. Now, within your risk management, the first thing you want to do is to identify those risks. What could go wrong? Okay? And then when you identify them, you analyze those risks. How likely are they to occur? And then what will be the impact? It's like you want to do a foundation, and then you say, oh, it's likely to rain. What happens when it rains on a fresh foundation? Maybe you've got your cement and everything, you just did that, and it started raining heavily. It's going to wash up all the cement, and you've lost money. So if that's a risk, what will be the impact? The impact is that you're going to wash out everything, and then you lose money. So what is your mitigation plan? What's your response? That's the risk response. Do you want to avoid the risk? Do you want to transfer it? Do you want to accept it? So you can say, okay, fine. Because we believe, or we just feel it might rain. As a result of that, we've made arrangements to get some polythene. There are some polythene coverings, okay, that they normally use to cover foundations after you've done your cementing and all that stuff. So even if it rains, it won't affect it. That's good. That's good plan. Okay, so you just prepare those, and then you keep checking the weather, and then you leave it. Maybe if you know you're going to leave the stuff till the next day, you can just cover it up. So in case it rains at night. Now that's how you deal with risk. You identify them, and then you analyze them. How likely is it going to happen? If it does happen, what will be the impact? Okay, and then what will be your response to it? So all this need to be shown within your plan. So you can create what we call a risk register. Yes, your risk register will show what those risks are, what is the likelihood of occurrence, what will be the impact if it happens, and then what are the response, the mitigation plan. So all those will be in your risk register. Okay. Now for quality, defining quality standards that are relevant to the project and the deliverables. You need to understand what the success criteria is for the project, and also what sort of standard is required. So these are things that you need to consider. There are different metrics that you need to check in order to look at this. Like for software now, you want to say, okay, if we're looking at quality, maybe all the bugs that were raised, what's the frequency of those bugs and how many of them were actually resolved. When we're talking of bugs, we're talking of some defects. When you're working on the software or the website or the app, mobile app, whatever it is, there will be some defects that will be noticed, observed by the testers. So when they do this, you are now saying, it's now left, when these are noted, it's now left for the developers to correct and fix it. Okay, so for you to check the quality of what is being done, you want the best standard, something that is bug free. Okay, so the lesser the bug, you say the better the quality. The lesser the defect, you can say, okay, oh, that's very good because we're actually able to deal with all the defects. Good. So those are parts of what you need to look at within the standard. Your testers will help you to get this done. And then the quality assurance team will help also when it comes to the waterfall side of things. So all this is to help the project meet the need for which it was undertaking. Okay, so we've looked at the risk and the quality side of things. Now, let's also look at I've mentioned risk, I've mentioned the quality management, and then within okay, there's also communication management. I've discussed that. So in summary now, summarizing everything within the planning phase. We've talked about your cost benefit. We've talked about your risk register, okay, resource management, the people that needs to do the work. How do you source for them? You need to understand the skill set required to get the job done. And then you pass this on to HR for them to get the required hands. Okay. Also, your scope baseline. This you need to state on your scope statement. Now, scope statement is also another document that is required within your planning phase. Remember, within the initiation phase, we talked about project charter, your business case. Okay, I also mentioned your PID. So here within the planning phase also, you will need your scope statement. And within your scope statement, it will detail what is included in your project and what is not included. Within the scope, what is included, what's not included, so that it becomes clear for everyone. Because if you don't have this, the tendency is there that as the project goes on, people will start adding stuffs. Oh, we need to add this to it. Oh, why don't you just add this? No. But if you have everything stated clearly, they know that this is there, this is not there. This is part of it, and this is not. Okay. So your schedule baseline, which has Okay, it has to be approved by management. We want to say, this is how long it's going to take. This is the time allotted for this project. Let's say we have a website that we need to build and we need to get to the market very fast. So we only have 90 days and the team is given 90 days to complete everything. So everything that you want to do has to run within that 90 days. Okay, so that's your timeline that you're working with, because management is going to approve budget, approve costing based on those number of days, because we accrue cost by day. Every day you're paying for things. You're paying for the office, you're paying for energy, you're paying for equipment, you're paying for resources, transport, different stuffs. So the more the days, the more you spend. So you want to try and manage it and ensure that it doesn't cross the boundaries. So you will have a baseline, a cost baseline, which will be on the approved budget, that this is what we've approved for this project. We don't want you to go beyond this. Okay, so that is it for our planning phase. You have your scope statement, you have your work breakdown structure, you have your schedule baseline, your cost baseline, risk register, resource management, and also communication plan. I've discussed this, okay, how you communicate within the team, with management, and you and the team, okay? For instance, if you're doing if you go to the agile project management side of things, where you have a scrum team, okay, a team of experts that are working on maybe a software, a mobile app, a digital platform, and then within that you have your scrum master, you have your business analysts, you have your developers, you have your QA testers. So when you have all these people working together, you have different ways of communicating. You have your daily stand-up, you have your maybe sprint planning where you communicate what needs to be done. And then you have your sprint review, you have your sprint retrospective, okay? So all these are ways of passing on passing on information. And then like the sprint review now, that's where management will come and sit, and then they want to see, okay, what is it that you've done? You are now showcasing what has been done. Oh, this is what we've done. We've built this website this way, and these are the features, and this is where we are at the moment. So management can now ask you questions. Okay, what about this? What about that? Why do you think this would be this? Why is this like this? Don't you feel this would be better? So all those questions will come up. And then when you now get all this feedback, you can now go back and fine tune whatever it is that you've done. And then you wrap up the sprint. So all these are contained within the planning phase. Now, the beautiful of this is that at the end of this project phase, I'm going to present you with a typical project, okay, that outlines all these different documentation and phases. Okay, so we're going to do one for waterfall, we're going to do one for agile. It's going to be interesting. That way, when you engage yourself with it, you will have a better understanding, because you might just go to a company where you will get engaged, and then it's going to be maybe a startup, or there's a new project coming up, and then they will ask, please, we need someone with understanding of how to run a project full life cycle. Maybe you've heard the word before, SDLC. Okay, they say for software delivery life cycle, the whole life cycle of a software. So you must have that experience. Okay, so these are part of what we're doing. But for the software delivery life cycle, I will give that to you later when we are done with the second phase of this section. This is just the first phase that deals with initiation and planning. Okay, so let's move on, please, because of our time. Now, this is your project roadmap. Okay, this is also a wonderful tool that you will need to explain what you're doing. So this just kind of bring a summary to the whole project in general. Everything about the project. Now here, we have Advent Code, okay? This roadmap shows the web team, the mobile mockup, and then the marketing team. Those are the three teams that are involved with this work. And then within each team, you can tell the activities that they are engaged in, and then the time that activity will come to play. Look at the web team. Within the web team, there's a new admin console, which is part of the task that they need to do. Then there's a third-party integration that they'll need to carry out. And then security 2.0, part of what they need to work on. Then if we move on further, if you move on further, you'll see the self-service portal that they need to generate, and then the API. So all these are part of what the web team will do. So just coming here, I can show this to management and say, within our project, this is the roadmap. This shows everything that we want to do. It's going to take a while though, but in summary, this is what we intend to achieve. And then look at the mobile mockup. They have the UX improvement, Android application, mobile mockup, the UK UX, the UX improvement also, then iterative dialog box. All these are part of what they will do. And then the marketing team, they will do a market analysis, customer outreach, okay, the legal generation. So all these are things that goes on within the same project, different team working together. And then I'm able to now split out what each team will be doing. So this is an example of the project roadmap, okay? You identify all the different teams, the different tasks that they'll be carrying out, and then time. You can see January where they will be, February where they'll be. By April, you know what will be happening on that the web team, by April, the web team should be working on their premise backup, then self-service portal. Then by May, they should be working on the API. So this is just the roadmap that shows everything in a bullet point. Finally, in summary, building a strong project foundation, you need to have clear planning in place. You need to have a good initiation documentation. You need to have well-structured plan. And within your well-structured plan, all this information that I've stated needs to be there. As part of the management, I want to see how well you're able to table up the objective of the project. Are you able to convince me that you have a good plan? Are you able to convince me that the risk involved with this project are being considered, well analyzed, planned for, and you know what to do in case it happens? What's your risk response? And then your communication plan. Then your stakeholders management. So all these are what you need to have. So when you have all this understanding, you will be surprised that your project will go smoothly and there won't be any hiccup. So, in summary, your initiation defines the why and what at a high level. And then your planning details the how. How do you intend to do this? That's what planning does. Okay? So, on our next meeting, we'll move to execution. the project proper. Let's execute this project now. What do we need to execute this project? It's very interesting. By the time you start your work, you will see how to engage with all these few documents and then how they help you to, get your job done well. Very interesting. Okay. Now, to finalize this, they say a failure to plan is a plan to fail. So planning is very essential and crucial in project management. So I think that's where we'll wrap it up for today. Let's have some questions and then we can bring some answers to it. Thank you very much. Okay, questions. We've looked at project initiation and project planning. So next week, we'll be looking at project execution, monitoring and control, and then project closure. Those are the other 3 parts left. And then when we wrap that up, we'll now look at the software delivery life cycle, just to tabulate it so that you will now see how it relates to all that we've discussed so far. So thank you very much. Questions? Let the questions come in, please.
Thank you so much, Wealth. That was a very, very in-depth introduction to Agile project management. I want to believe everybody caught something, and sometimes it might still look a bit cloudy. You're wondering what is all this one that they're talking about and all that. But like he said, as time goes on, we will definitely settle into it, and that's when you would appreciate that everything you've learned today would now sink in. So please, like he said, let's welcome questions.